I'm Summer Washington, and I don't lose. Not in business, not in life, and definitely not in bowling. The neon lights of Mesa Lanes cast purple shadows across my blonde hair as I line up my final shot. My tech consulting firm's sponsorship deal hangs on tonight's league championship. And Marcus Chen's smug face in the stands reminds me exactly what's at stake. The ball leaves my fingers like a guided missile. Strike. The crowd erupts, but I barely hear them. Victory tastes familiar, almost boring now. Nice form. The voice stops me mid-celebration. I turn to find a woman I've never seen before, still dripping from what smells like river water. Her brunette hair is pulled back in a messy ponytail, revealing a neck I shouldn't be noticing. Brown eyes study me with the same intensity I use to dissect quarterly reports. "You're late," I say, nodding toward her team's disappointed faces. "Traffic." She shrugs, grabbing a ball. "I'm Camila Parker, Summer Washington." I watch her approach the lane with the fluid grace of an athlete. "What's your excuse for joining a losing team?" She turns back with a smile that makes my chest tighten. "Who says we're losing?" Her first throw sends 7 pins flying. The second clears the rest. Damn. "Lucky shot," I call out. "Technique." She flexes shoulders that could power a small boat. I row competitively. That explains the arms, and the confidence, and why I'm suddenly questioning my own game. The match continues with us trading strikes and verbal jabs. Every time she steps up to throw, I find myself studying the way she moves, controlled power wrapped in determination. When she catches me staring, her smile turns knowing. "Distracted?" she asks during the 8th frame. "Calculating." I line up my shot, but my usual focus wavers. "Your team's still behind. Math isn't everything." She's right. For the first time in years, I deliberately pull my throw left, leaving an easy spare instead of a strike. The competitive part of my brain screams protests, but something deeper whispers that this conversation matters more than any contract. "Interesting strategy," Camila says as I return to our shared area. Sometimes the unexpected move is the right one. Our eyes meet and hold. The bowling alley fades around us, leaving only the space between her breath and mine. I've closed $1-million deals with less electricity crackling in the air. "Drinks?" I hear myself asking as the final scores flash. My team won by 3 pins, but it feels like we both got what we came for. "Murphy's Bar," she says. "Unless you're afraid of losing at something else." I laugh, surprising myself. "I don't lose, remember?" "We'll see about that." As we walk across the parking lot, I realize she's already won something I didn't even know was up for grabs. My carefully controlled world suddenly feels wide open, dangerous, and exactly where I want to be. Murphy's Bar smells like leather and bad decisions. I slide into a booth across from Camila, watching her fingers wrap around a beer bottle with the same precision she used at the lanes. The dim lighting softens her edges but not her intensity. "So what drives a tech mogul to bowling leagues?" she asks. "Networking. Business is about relationships." The lie comes so easily I almost believe it myself. Truth is, I've been lonely in my penthouse tower for months. And what drives a rower to Mesa? Training. The river here flows different than back east. She takes a long drink, plus cheaper rent than Phoenix. I study her face, looking for tells like I would in a boardroom negotiation. Instead, I find something unexpected. Honesty. "It's been so long since someone spoke to me without an agenda." "You could have told your team captain you'd be late," I point out. "Could've, didn't want to." Her brown eyes hold mine. "Sometimes you have to see where the current takes you." The metaphor isn't lost on me. I've spent 10 years swimming upstream, building my company from nothing, while men like Marcus Chen inherited their empires. Control became my religion. That's risky thinking for an athlete. All the best things are risky. Something shifts between us. The air grows thicker, charged with possibility I haven't felt since college. Before I built walls around everything that mattered. "I should get going," I say. "But don't move to leave." "Should." She leans forward slightly. "But you won't." She's right. Again. Damn her confidence and the way it makes my pulse quicken. We talk for 2 hours. She tells me about pre-dawn training sessions on the Salt River, the meditation of perfect strokes through still water. I find myself describing board meetings like battle strategies, the loneliness of always being the smartest person in the room. Sounds exhausting, she says when I finish explaining my latest acquisition. Success usually is. Is it worth it? No one's ever asked me that before. The question hangs between us like a challenge. Outside, the Arizona night wraps around us like warm silk. Stars pierce the desert sky, brighter than they ever get in the city's glow. I should get in my Mercedes and drive home to my empty penthouse. Should maintain the professional distance that's kept me safe for years. Instead, I find myself backing against the cool metal of my car door as Camila steps closer. This is complicated, I whisper. Most worthwhile things are. Her lips brush mine, tentative at first, then deeper when I don't pull away. She tastes like beer and possibility, like everything I've denied myself in pursuit of success. My hands find her shoulders, feeling the strength that powers her through water, through life. When we break apart, I'm breathing like I just ran a marathon. Come up, I hear myself saying. I have a view you should see. Just the view? I smile, feeling reckless for the first time in years. We'll start there. My penthouse elevator carries us 30 floors above Mesa's sprawling lights. Camila moves through my space like she belongs here, touching nothing but somehow claiming everything with her presence. You live like a museum exhibit, she observes, running fingers along my glass dining table. I like clean lines. Where do you actually live? The question cuts deeper than it should. I pour 2 glasses of wine, buying time I don't need. Everywhere. Nowhere. I hand her the glass. I work 16-hour days. That's existing, not living. She's wrong. She has to be wrong. But standing here in my perfect empty space, watching her look out at the city spread below us like scattered diamonds, I wonder if she's the first person to see what I've really built, a beautiful prison. Tell me about the river, I say, settling beside her on my leather couch. Her face transforms as she describes morning mist rising off still water, the rhythm of oars cutting through silence. Her passion flows like the current she loves, pulling me deeper into something I don't understand but desperately want to explore. When she finally stops talking, we're sitting closer than strangers should. The space between us hums with electricity I've never felt in any boardroom victory. Summer. Just my name, but the way she says it makes everything else fade away. Dawn breaks over the Salt River like a promise I'm not sure I can keep. I'm standing on the wooden dock at 5:30 a.m., coffee in hand, watching Camila glide through water that mirrors the Arizona sky. This woman has turned my world sideways in less than a week. Her stroke is poetry in motion. Pull, feather, recover. Each movement precise yet powerful, sending her racing shell cutting through the current like a blade through silk. I've watched million-dollar presentations, but nothing's held my attention like this. You're early, she calls out, bringing her boat alongside the dock. I'm always early. She laughs, water droplets catching sunlight as she lifts the shell from the river. Help me carry this? Her fingers brush mine as we lift the narrow boat together. Even through latex gloves, her touch sends electricity up my arms. I'm 44 years old, for crying out loud. I should be past this teenage flutter in my chest. Coffee? I hold up the extra cup I brought. You're getting predictable. But she takes it, steam curling between us in the cool morning air. We sit on the dock's edge, legs dangling over water that reflects our distorted shapes. In my tailored suit next to her rowing uniform, we look like we belong in different universes. Maybe we do. Why do you do this? I ask, watching her teammates arrive for practice. The water doesn't lie, doesn't care about politics or money or who your daddy knows. She sips her coffee. Just pure physics. Force times distance. Sounds lonely. So does your boardroom. She's got me there. I've built an empire on calculated risks and careful isolation. Trust no one completely. Reveal nothing that can be used against you. The rules that made me successful have left me watching life from behind glass walls. Will you come to my office sometime, see where I work? Her smile is answer enough. 3 days later, Camila steps into my glass tower like Alice entering Wonderland. She's wearing jeans and a simple white shirt, but she makes my designer-dressed employees look overdressed and underpowered. I watch heads turn as I lead her through the 32nd floor. Impressive, she says, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcase Mesa sprawling toward distant mountains. This is where I spend most of my life. My office overlooks the city like a pilot's cockpit. Awards line the walls next to photos of me shaking hands with politicians and tech giants. The desk cost more than most people's cars. Where do you eat lunch? I point to the conference table. Meetings mostly. Where do you relax? The question catches me off guard. I don't really... Everyone needs downtime, Summer. She's wrong. Downtime is dangerous. Downtime lets competitors gain ground. But standing here with her, I realize I can't remember the last time I did anything just for pleasure. My assistant knocks. Miss Washington, the Morrison call is ready. Take a message. Camila raises an eyebrow. Don't change your schedule for me. It's not important. Another lie. The Morrison deal could add $2 million to our quarterly revenue. But watching Camila explore my space, seeing it through her eyes, matters more than any contract right now. 5 o'clock arrives faster than usual. The office empties, leaving us alone among the glass and steel monuments to my ambition. Camila sits on my leather couch, looking perfectly at home in a space that intimidates Fortune 500 executives. You built all this yourself? She asks. Every brick, pride and exhaustion wore in my voice. Started in a garage 12 years ago. Must have been scary. Terrifying. I join her on the couch, close enough to smell her faint perfume mixed with the river scent that's become addictive. But fear can be useful, keeps you sharp. What scares you now? The question hangs between us like a live wire. Everything, I want to say. Losing what I've built, making the wrong choice. This feeling growing in my chest whenever you're near. Instead, I lean forward and kiss her. It's different than our first kiss in the parking lot. Less tentative, more desperate. Her hands find my face, fingers threading through my hair as she pulls me closer. I taste coffee and something uniquely her, something that makes my rational mind shut down completely. When we break apart, we're both breathing hard. The elevator, I manage. She understands immediately. We stumble toward the private elevator that serves only the executive floor, hands exploring, mouths finding each other again before the doors even close. The 32nd floor to the parking garage has never felt so endless. My penthouse welcomes us with city lights and silence. But tonight, the empty space feels full of possibility instead of loneliness. Camila moves through my perfect rooms like she's claiming them, making them ours instead of just mine. On the leather couch that's been nothing more than expensive furniture, she becomes something I never expected to find: home. Her touch erases every calculated decision, every careful wall I've built. In the space between her whispered name and my breathless response, I discover what I've been missing in all my victories. Later, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets I bought for their thread count rather than comfort, I watch her sleep. The city spreads below us like a circuit board, all connected lights and flowing energy. For the first time in years, I'm not thinking about tomorrow's meetings or quarterly projections. I'm thinking about rivers and racing shells, about the difference between existing and living, about what happens when control becomes less important than connection. I never understood why people called Sedona magical until I'm sitting on a red, sandstone ledge with Camila, watching sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Taking a weekend away from Mesa felt like playing hooky from my own life, but here in the desert quiet, I'm remembering what breathing actually feels like. You're different here, Camila observes, her hand finding mine on the warm rock. How so? Less armor. She traces my palm with her thumb. In your office, you wear control like a second skin. Control keeps things from falling apart. Sometimes things need to fall apart. The words hit deeper than they should. I've spent 12 years building walls around everything that mattered, creating a fortress that protected my company, my reputation, my heart. But sitting here with red rocks rising around us like ancient cathedrals, those walls feel less like protection and more like prison bars. Tell me something you've never told anyone, she says. The request should terrify me. Instead, it feels like relief. I haven't slept through the night in 3 years, not once. The admission comes out in a rush. I wake up at 2 a.m., going over spreadsheets in my head, checking emails, planning the next day's battles. Success became this hungry thing that devours everything else. Camila doesn't offer platitudes or solutions. She just squeezes my hand tighter. Sometimes I watch other women at coffee shops or restaurants. I continue. They're laughing with friends, planning vacations, talking about books they've read for pleasure. And I realize I don't remember the last time I did anything just because it made me happy. What about now? I look at her profile silhouetted against the painted sky. This is the happiest I've been in years. Then why do you look scared? Because happiness is dangerous. Because caring about someone gives them power to hurt you. Because the last person I loved left when my company was failing and I spent 18-hour days trying to save it. Because vulnerability feels like standing naked in a boardroom full of sharks. I don't know how to do this, I whisper instead. Do what? Be with someone. Be present. I'm good at acquisition strategies and market analysis. I'm terrible at emotions. Camila turns to face me fully, brown eyes serious in the fading light. You want to know what I see when I look at you? Not particularly, but I nod anyway. Strength that doesn't know when to bend. Intelligence that's forgotten how to play. Beauty that's been weaponized for so long it's forgotten it can just exist. Her fingers brush my cheek. And underneath all that armor, someone who's been alone for way too long. The truth in her words makes my chest tight. When did I become this person? When did success start requiring the sacrifice of everything else that mattered? I used to paint, I hear myself saying, watercolors. Terrible, messy, wonderful watercolors that hung in my college dorm room until some boy told me they looked amateur. What happened to them? Threw them away. Started business school the next semester. Maybe it's time to buy some paints. The suggestion should sound ridiculous coming from someone whose calloused hands speak. Of dawn training sessions and physical punishment in pursuit of Olympic dreams. Instead, it sounds like permission to be human again. We make love that night in our hotel room with red rocks visible through the window, moonlight turning everything silver and sacred. Her touch erases every spreadsheet, every board meeting, every carefully calculated decision that brought me to this moment. For the first time in years, I'm completely present, completely alive, completely terrified by how good it feels to let someone else matter more than market projections. I need to tell you something, she whispers afterward, fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. My body tenses automatically. Nothing good ever follows those words in my experience. My training schedule gets intense over the next few months. Olympic trials are coming up, which means dawn to dusk sessions, travel for competitions, less time for everything else. Relief floods through me. Not because I want less time with her, but because this is a problem I can solve. I'll adjust my schedule. Work around your training. Summer. Her voice carries a warning I don't want to hear. This isn't a negotiation. I can't promise you'll be my priority during peak season. I'm not asking to be your priority. But I am, aren't I? I'm asking her to fit into my world the way every relationship eventually requires someone to compromise. The realization hits like cold water. Yes, you are. And maybe that's okay. She shifts to look at me directly. Maybe we both need to figure out how to make space for something that matters. Outside our window, Sedona's red formations stand like monuments to time and patience. They've weathered millions of years of storms by learning when to bend and when to stand firm. Maybe there's wisdom in their ancient silence. I don't want to lose this, I admit. Whatever this is becoming. Me neither. But you're scared too. Terrified. She laughs softly. I've spent 5 years focused on nothing but making the Olympic team. Relationships were distractions I couldn't afford. Now you walk into a bowling alley and suddenly I'm rearranging my entire worldview. We hold each other in the darkness, two women who've built their lives on control and singular focus, trying to figure out how to make room for something as unpredictable as love. Tomorrow we'll drive back to Mesa, back to conference calls and training, schedules and the careful distance we've maintained from our own hearts. But tonight, wrapped in hotel sheets with red rocks standing guard outside, we're brave enough to admit that some things are worth the risk of falling apart. The drive back from Sedona should feel like returning to reality, but with Camila's hand on my thigh as I navigate desert highways, reality has never felt so promising. Her training schedule intensifies next week, but I've already cleared my calendar for morning coffee runs to the dock. Some things matter more than quarterly reports. My penthouse elevator carries us up through Mesa's skyline, and for the first time, the space doesn't feel empty. Camila moves through my living room like she belongs here, tossing her overnight bag onto my pristine couch with casual ownership that makes my chest warm. I could get used to this view, she says, looking out at the city lights. Good. I want you to. The honesty in my voice surprises us both. I'm Summer Washington. I don't admit wants or needs, but this woman has cracked something open in me that feels too important to hide behind corporate speak. My phone buzzes. Then again. Third time's a charm for ruining perfect moments. Ignore it, Camila says, but I'm already checking the display. Unknown number, which usually means either opportunity or crisis in my business. Miss Washington? The voice is crisp, official, completely wrong for a Sunday evening. This is Detective Ruby Ramirez with Mesa Police Department. I need to ask you some questions regarding Marcus Chen. The world tilts sideways. Marcus Chen, my biggest competitor, and the man whose smug face dominated tonight's bowling tournament just 3 weeks ago. The man whose contracts I've been systematically stealing through perfectly legal but morally questionable means. What about him? He's dead, ma'am. We found his body in his office this morning. I'd like to schedule a time to speak with you. Dead. The word bounces around my skull like a pinball. Marcus Chen, who started his company the same year I did mine. Who stole my first major client with a handshake deal I couldn't match. Who represented everything I fought against in this business, inherited privilege, old boy networks, casual sexism disguised as mentorship advice. When, I managed to ask. Tonight would be preferable. Are you available? I look at Camila, who's watching me with growing concern from across the room. 20 minutes ago we were making plans for breakfast and lazy Sunday morning conversations. Now, a homicide detective wants to discuss my dead business rival. I'll be right there. Actually, we're already downstairs. Building security let us up. The elevator dings before I can respond. Camila stands straighter, athlete's instincts recognizing danger even without context. I smooth my hair and straighten my shoulders, slipping back into the professional mask that's protected me through countless hostile negotiations. Detective Ramirez looks exactly like her voice suggested, sharp, observant. Completely unimpressed by my penthouse's expensive minimalism. She's accompanied by a younger officer whose name I immediately forget, because all my attention focuses on the notebook in Ramirez's hands. Beautiful place, she observes, though her tone suggests she's cataloging details rather than admiring decor. Thank you. This is Camila Parker, my friend. The word feels inadequate, but I'm not ready to explain our relationship to a homicide investigator. Miss Parker. The detective nods politely before turning attention back to me. When did you last see Mr. Chen? The bowling tournament 3 weeks ago. We barely spoke. But you knew him professionally? This is where it gets complicated. Marcus and I circled each other like predators for years, stealing clients, poaching employees, undercutting bids with surgical precision. Professional courtesy demanded we maintain civility at industry events, but everyone knew we despised each other. We were competitors, same market space. Intense competition, according to our preliminary interviews. I force my expression to remain neutral. All business is competitive, detective. Were you in your office Friday night between 8 and midnight? Friday night. Think summer. What was I doing Friday night while someone was apparently killing Marcus Chen? Camila had training camp that weekend, so I was alone. Working late because that's what I always do when emotions get too complicated to process. Yes. I often work late Fridays. Building security shows your keycard accessed the parking garage at 11:47 p.m. I left around midnight. The timeline feels wrong somehow, but I can't pinpoint why. Check the elevator logs. I went straight from my office to parking level B. Detective Ramirez makes notes that I can't read upside down. Beside me, Camila sits perfectly still, but I can feel tension radiating from her like heat off summer asphalt. Did you know Mr. Chen had been receiving death threats? No. The answer comes too quickly, automatic and sharp. What kind of threats? We're still investigating. But his assistant mentioned he'd been particularly worried about a competitor who'd been getting desperate recently. The words hit like ice water. Desperate. Is that how Marcus saw my recent client acquisitions? The aggressive bidding strategies that kept my company afloat while his thrived? Half our industry could be described as desperate, detective. It's a tough market. For some more than others. She closes her notebook. We may have more questions as the investigation develops. Please don't leave town without letting us know. After they leave, silence fills my penthouse like toxic gas. Camila sits motionless on the couch, processing information that doesn't quite add up to a complete picture. Marcus Chen is dead, I finally say, testing how the words taste. I gathered that. Her voice carries careful neutrality that scares me more than accusations would. You look surprised when she mentioned the threats. Because I was surprised. I didn't know about any threats. But you weren't surprised he was dead. The observation cuts deeper than it should. Was I surprised? Marcus made enemies the way other people collected business cards. His company's aggressive tactics had destroyed smaller competitors without mercy or remorse. He wasn't exactly beloved in the industry. That's not an answer, Summer. She's right. It's not an answer because the real answer is complicated and potentially incriminating. I wasn't surprised because Marcus Chen had been living on borrowed time for years. Making deals with people who collected debts in blood instead of money? I should probably call my lawyer. Why? Because I'm about to become a murder suspect? The words hang between us like a bridge neither of us knows how to cross. This morning we were planning lazy breakfasts and talking about making space for love. Tonight we're discussing homicide investigations and legal representation. Did you kill him? Camila asks quietly. No. Then we'll figure this out. We. The simple word carries weight that makes my throat tight. She's choosing to stay, to trust, to face whatever comes next together. It's more than I deserve and exactly what I need. I just hope it's enough. Tuesday morning brings news that shatters what's left of my carefully constructed world. Detective Ramirez's call interrupts my third cup of coffee as I stare at Marcus Chen's obituary online, trying to reconcile the smiling corporate headshot with the reality of his violent death. We need to discuss the murder weapon, she says without preamble. My blood turns to Arctic water. What about it? Mr. Chen was killed with a rowing oar, carbon fiber, professional grade, the kind used by Olympic-level athletes. The phone slips from suddenly numb fingers. Camila looks up from her protein shake preparation, brown eyes immediately alert to the shift in atmospheric pressure around me. Miss Washington, are you there? I fumble the phone back to my ear. Yes, sorry. Signal dropped. Given your relationship with Miss Parker, we'd like to speak with both of you this afternoon. 2:00 at the station. The line goes dead. I set the phone down with exaggerated care, as if sudden movements might cause reality to shatter completely. What's wrong? Camila asks, though her voice already carries the weight of knowing. The murder weapon. It was a rowing oar. She goes perfectly still, not the frozen stillness of shock, but the controlled immobility of an athlete preparing for impact. Her hands stop mid-gesture over the blender, protein powder suspended between measuring cup and container. That's impossible. Ramirez seems to think it's very possible. Summer. Her voice carries warning notes I've never heard before. I was at training camp all weekend. 40 other people can vouch for my location. There's no way. I know that. The words come out sharper than intended. But coincidences make cops suspicious, and this is one hell of a coincidence. She moves around my kitchen island like she's navigating through deep water, every step considered and careful. When she reaches me, her hands frame my face with desperate gentleness. We'll figure this out. Will we? The question tastes bitter. Because right now it looks like someone killed my biggest business rival with your sports signature equipment while we were conveniently in different cities. You think I'm involved? I think someone wants us to look involved. The distinction matters, but her flinch suggests it doesn't feel different from her perspective. I've spent 12 years learning to compartmentalize, to separate emotion from analysis, but with Camila's hands on my face and fear crawling up my spine, professional detachment crumbles. I need to call my lawyer. Our lawyer, she corrects. We're in this together. An hour later, we sit across from David Morrison, the criminal defense attorney who usually handles corporate malfeasance for my company. He's expensive, connected, and currently looking at us like we're particularly complicated math problems. The rowing oar creates obvious complications, he says after reviewing Detective Ramirez's preliminary questions. But the timeline helps. Miss Parker's training camp alibi is solid, and Miss Washington's building security confirms her location Friday night. Then why do I feel like we're walking into a trap? Morrison adjusts his glasses, choosing words with surgical precision. Because someone went to considerable effort to implicate you both. The weapon choice isn't random. It's designed to create exactly this kind of suspicion. Who would do that? Someone with access to rowing equipment and intimate knowledge of your relationship. The words hang in the air like smoke from a fire we can't see. Camila's hand finds mine under the conference table, fingers interlacing with desperate pressure. How many people know about us? I ask her. My training partners. Elena, a few people at the club. Elena Torres, Camila's former rowing partner who's made passive-aggressive comments about Camila's new priorities ever since we started dating. Elena, who has access to equipment and intimate knowledge of training schedules. We need a list, Morrison says. Everyone who knows about your relationship. Everyone with access to rowing equipment. Everyone with potential motives. 2:00 arrives with desert precision. The Mesa police station feels like a tomb, all fluorescent lights and industrial. Carpeting that muffles every sound except our thundering heartbeats. Detective Ramirez leads us into separate interview rooms. A detail Morrison warned us about but still feels like betrayal in practice. Standard procedure, she explains. Corroborating statements work better when they're independent. I spend 90 minutes answering the same questions from different angles. Where was I Friday night? What was my relationship with Marcus Chen? Did I know anyone who had access to rowing equipment? The detective's voice remains professionally neutral, but her eyes catalog every micro. Expression, every hesitation, every tell that might reveal guilt or deception. Your business has been struggling lately, she observes during what feels like hour 6 of questioning. All businesses face challenges. According to financial records, you've lost 3 major clients to Chen Industries in the past 6 months. Market forces, competitive bidding, that must have been frustrating. The statement begs for emotional response, an admission of anger or resentment that could build into motive. I've handled hostile board meetings and investor interrogations, but this feels different, more personal, more dangerous. Frustration goes with the territory, detective. When Camila and I finally reunite in Morrison's car, we're both emotionally wrung out. She looks pale, shaken in ways that intensive athletic training never managed. They asked about you, she says quietly. Your schedule, your access to my equipment, whether you'd ever expressed anger toward Chen. What did you tell them? The truth. That you work 16-hour days and barely have time for personal relationships, much less elaborate murder plots. Thanks for the ringing endorsement. She doesn't smile at the weak joke. Summer, they know things. About your financial situation, about the contracts you lost. Someone's been feeding them information. What kind of information? The detective mentioned specific deal amounts, client names, details that weren't public knowledge. My stomach drops toward my shoes. Corporate espionage is one thing, using insider information to build. A murder case crosses lines I never imagined having to consider. Who else knew about the Chen contracts? Your employees, board members, maybe competitors who track public filings? Or someone with access to both our worlds? We look at each other with growing understanding. Someone who knows my business struggles and Camila's equipment access. Someone who could manipulate evidence to point at both of us while remaining safely in the background. Someone very close to home. Sleep becomes impossible when your world tilts on its axis. I lie awake Wednesday night staring at my penthouse ceiling while Camila tosses restlessly beside me, both of us pretending we're not terrified. The rowing oar detail has infected everything like poison, turning every shadow into potential threat. My phone buzzes at 6 a.m. Elena Torres. Can we meet? I need to tell you something about Summer. The words chill me more than desert morning air. I slip from bed without waking Camila, though her training schedule would have her up soon anyway. Elena suggests Murphy's Bar, neutral territory, where we first kissed 3 weeks ago. Now it feels like returning to a crime scene. Elena looks terrible. Dark circles hollow her eyes, and her usually perfect blonde hair hangs limp around shoulders that shake despite the morning heat. She orders coffee she doesn't drink, hands wrapped around the mug like an anchor. I saw her, she says without preamble. Friday night, at the boathouse. My heart stops. What? Summer. She was there around 10:30, going through equipment lockers. Including yours. The world narrows to Elena's words, and the sudden roar of blood in my ears. That's impossible. She was at her office. I know what I saw, Camila. She had keys. She was looking for something specific. Why were you at the boathouse that late? Elena's face crumbles. I've been staying there sometimes, sleeping in the equipment room when rent got tight. I know it's against club rules, but with my training stipend cut, the confession hangs between us like a live grenade. Elena Torres, former Olympic alternate, reduced to sleeping in a boat. House because athletic glory doesn't pay the bills after dreams die? Elena, you have to tell the police. Do I? Her laugh sounds broken. Tell them I've been illegally living at the boathouse where the murder weapon came from? Tell them I watched your girlfriend commit what looks like breaking and entering? It wasn't breaking and entering. I gave her my access code. The lie comes so smoothly, I almost believe it myself. But I never gave Summer my code. She never asked for it. She had no reason to be at the boathouse Friday night while I was 300 miles away at training camp. Why would she need your equipment? I don't know. Another lie. I'm becoming fluent in deception. A skill that feels necessary and revolting simultaneously. Elena leans forward, desperation making her eyes too bright. There's more. I heard her on the phone. She was arguing with someone about money, about deals going bad. She mentioned Chen's name. What exactly did you hear? Something about teaching him a lesson, about people who steal getting what they deserve. The words hit like physical blows. Summer's voice saying those things, in my sacred space, surrounded by equipment that trust and dedication built. It doesn't fit the woman who holds me at night, who's learning to let control soften into connection. Elena, I need you to think carefully. Are you sure it was Summer? Blonde hair, expensive clothes, driving that silver Mercedes? Who else could it be? Who else indeed? But something about Elena's story feels orchestrated, too convenient in its devastating details. Summer might be ruthless in business, but sneaking around boathouses at midnight doesn't match her direct approach to problems. You have to report this. I will, but Camila... Her hand reaches across the table, touching mine with desperate familiarity. Be careful. I know you care about her, but people aren't always who they seem. I leave Murphy's Bar with Elena's words echoing in my skull and drive straight to Summer's office tower. She's in a morning meeting, but her assistant waves me through when I explain it's urgent. Through glass walls, I watch Summer command a conference room full of suits, completely in her element, radiating competence and control. This woman sneaking around boathouses? Impossible. Camila? She excuses herself from the meeting when she sees me. What's wrong? We need to talk, privately. Her office feels different today. The awards and photographs seem accusatory rather than impressive. The view of Mesa spreads below us like evidence of ambition that might have finally gone too far. Elena says she saw you at the boathouse Friday night. Summer goes perfectly still, not the careful stillness of someone choosing words, but the frozen reaction of someone processing unexpected information. That's impossible. I was here until midnight. She was very specific. 10:30, going through equipment lockers, on the phone about Chen. Camila. Summer's voice carries warning notes I don't recognize. Elena Torres is lying. Why would she lie? I don't know. But I've never been to your boathouse at night. I don't have keys or access codes. I was in this office Friday, working on the Patterson proposal, until security logged me out at 11:47. Then, why does she say she saw you? Summer moves around her desk, hands reaching for mine, but I step back. The distance feels necessary and heartbreaking simultaneously, because someone wants us to doubt each other. Someone who knows exactly which details would hurt most. But she knew about your conversation, about Chen. What conversation? Camila, I never mentioned Marcus Chen in any phone call Friday night. Check my phone records if you need proof. The certainty in her voice wavers my conviction. But Elena's words carry their own weight. Someone is lying, and I can't determine who without destroying what matters most. I need some air. Don't leave like this. But I'm already heading for the elevator, desperate for space to process. Information that doesn't arrange itself into comfortable truth. Summer lets me go, which somehow hurts more than pursuit would have. The rowing club sits beside the salt river like a temple to dedication and sacrifice. I find Elena in the equipment room, organizing oars with mechanical precision. Her movements halt when she sees me. Did you talk to her? She denies being here Friday night. Of course she does. Elena sets down an oar with careful control. Camila, there's something else. About the missing equipment. My stomach clenches. What missing equipment? One of the training oars. Carbon fiber, professional grade. It's been gone since Friday night. The room spins slightly. Professional grade carbon fiber. Exactly what Detective Ramirez described as the murder weapon. Could it have been misplaced, borrowed for repairs? I keep detailed inventory. Someone took it Friday night while I was hiding upstairs. Someone who knew exactly which locker held the best equipment. Elena. My voice sounds hollow to my own ears. Why didn't you mention this earlier? Because I was hoping I was wrong. Because I wanted to protect you from the truth. The truth. As if truth were singular, knowable, something that could be protected or exposed rather than assembled from fragments of perspective and motive. You have to tell Detective Ramirez. I know. But Camila, when I do, they're going to arrest Summer. The evidence points directly at her. Outside, the Salt River flows with indifferent certainty toward destinations it's never questioned. Water doesn't lie, doesn't manipulate, doesn't present convenient evidence at perfect moments. Water simply follows physics and geography toward inevitable conclusions. I wish human truth were equally straightforward. My phone buzzes. Summer's name on the display, but I'm not ready for her voice or explanations, or the desperate need to believe her despite accumulating evidence. Instead, I sit by the water where we first kissed, trying to reconcile. The woman who makes love like worship with someone capable of murder, trying to understand how love and doubt can occupy the same heart simultaneously. The sun sets over Mesa while I wrestle with questions that have no comfortable answers. Thursday morning arrives with news that changes everything. Detective Ramirez's warrant hits my company like a precision strike, freezing assets, and seizing computer files while reporters gather outside like vultures. By noon, my face dominates local news cycles as person of interest in tech executive murder. Camila finds me in Morrison's office, hollow-eyed and running on fury instead of sleep. She looks equally destroyed, caught between loyalty and mounting evidence that someone's carefully constructed to destroy us both. They have Elena's statement, Morrison says without preamble. Missing equipment, alleged sightings, recorded phone conversations. It's compelling evidence. Alleged being the operative word. Summer. Camila's voice carries exhaustion that matches my own. Maybe we should consider that Elena's telling the truth. The words hit like betrayal. After everything we've built, every wall I've dismantled for her, she's choosing doubt over trust. You believe I killed Marcus Chen? I believe someone did. Someone with motive and opportunity. But not means. I don't know carbon fiber from cardboard. You know me. You know my equipment. The accusation hangs between us like toxic smoke. She's right, of course. I've watched her train, touched her oars, learned the difference between racing. Shells through obsessive attention to everything that matters to her. Knowledge that could be twisted into evidence of premeditation. Morrison clears his throat diplomatically. We need to discuss immediate strategy. The warrant net is expanding. They'll want to search your penthouse, your car, anywhere you might have hidden evidence. There is no evidence because I didn't kill anyone. Nevertheless, we should prepare for arrest. Bail will be substantial, given the charges and your financial resources. Arrest. The word tastes like ash and devastated futures. I built my company from nothing, survived hostile takeovers and economic downturns. But criminal charges could destroy everything in weeks rather than years. There has to be another explanation. There is. Camila's phone buzzes with a text that makes her face drain color. Elena wants to meet. She says she has more information. About what? The real killer. 2 hours later, we're driving toward the Salt River boathouse in Morrison's car, electronic surveillance making my Mercedes too dangerous for clandestine meetings. The late afternoon light turns water into molten copper, while Camilla navigates back roads with white-knuckled precision. This feels like a trap, I murmur. Everything feels like a trap lately. She's right. Paranoia has become our default setting, turning every conversation into potential evidence and every relationship into suspicious motive. Love shouldn't require this much courage. The boathouse sits empty in golden light, rowing shells arranged like sleeping giants along wooden racks. Elena's car occupies the parking area, but something feels wrong about the scene. Too quiet, too perfectly staged. She's probably inside, Camila says, though her voice carries uncertainty that matches my growing dread. We approach the building together, footsteps echoing off water that reflects our distorted shapes. The main door stands slightly ajar, invitation or warning depending on perspective. Elena? Camila calls out. No response except river sounds and distant traffic. Inside, equipment rooms stretch into shadows that could hide anything, or anyone. This was a mistake, I whisper. Too late now. Elena emerges from the far storage room, but something's wrong with her movements. Too mechanical, too controlled. In her hands, she carries a rowing oar like a weapon, carbon fiber gleaming in filtered sunlight. Hello, Camila. Summer. Her voice sounds different, flatter, stripped of the desperate emotion that characterized our earlier conversations. Elena, what's going on? Justice. She moves closer, oar shifting to a more aggressive angle. For people who steal everything that matters. My mind races through possibilities, none of them comfortable. Elena's been manipulating evidence, feeding information to police, creating a narrative that implicates us while positioning herself as helpful witness rather than primary suspect. You killed Marcus Chen. Marcus Chen was collateral damage, a casualty in a war you started when you stole my life. I never stole anything from you. Didn't you? Elena's laugh sounds broken glass. Training partners, Olympic dreams. Now the one person who might have loved me if you hadn't gotten there first. The confession unravels like rope in a strong current. Elena's obsession with Camila, her financial desperation, her access to equipment and insider knowledge about my business struggles. She's been orchestrating everything from the beginning. Elena, put the oar down. Like you put down your guard with me? Like Marcus Chen put down his when I visited his office Friday night? She takes another step closer. I told him about your relationship, about the evidence I was planting. He thought it was hilarious that 2 women would go to prison for his murder. But he didn't die laughing. No. He died surprised. Camila moves slightly to my left, athlete's instincts calculating angles and distances. Elena notices immediately, adjusting her position to keep both of us in striking range. Don't try to be heroic. I've spent 5 years perfecting my stroke technique. This won't work, Elena. Too much evidence points to you now. Evidence I've been careful to eliminate or redirect. My fingerprints were already on equipment. My presence at the boathouse was normal. But your presence Friday night, your financial motives, your access through Camila. Perfect motive and opportunity. Except I was never here Friday night. Weren't you? Elena reaches into her pocket, producing a keycard with Summer Washington printed clearly across the magnetic strip. Corporate espionage is so easy when building security consists of minimum wage guards and outdated cameras. The pieces click into place with horrible clarity. Elena cloning my access card, using it to establish false timeline evidence while actually committing murder elsewhere. My building's security logs would show my card being used, but not necessarily by me. You've been planning this for months. Years. Ever since the Olympic team passed me over for younger athletes. Ever since I realized dedication and sacrifice meant nothing compared to politics and luck. Elena. Camila's voice carries the same tone she uses to calm spooked rowing partners. This isn't the answer, isn't it? You'll both disappear into the prison system. I'll inherit your training spot, your equipment access. maybe even the sympathy of your mutual friends, and live with murder on your conscience? Conscience is a luxury I can't afford. She raises the oar like a club, carbon fiber whistling through air toward my skull. Camila launches herself forward with explosive power, tackling Elena around the waist and sending both women crashing into equipment racks. The impact sounds like breaking bones and splintering dreams. Oars scatter across concrete floor, while two athletes fight with desperate intensity over futures that can't coexist. I grab my phone, dialing 911 while their struggle determines who lives and who answers for Marcus Chen's murder. Mesa Police. What's your emergency? Detective Ramirez. Tell her Summer Washington and Camila Parker have your real killer. The sound of sirens cutting through desert evening air becomes the sweetest music I've ever heard. Detective Ramirez arrives with enough backup to secure a small country, but by then Elena Torres sits cuffed and bleeding from a broken nose while Camila holds ice to her bruised knuckles. Miss Washington, Miss Parker. Ramirez surveys the scene with professional satisfaction. Interesting way to conduct citizen arrests. She confessed, I manage, adrenaline making my voice shake, to killing Marcus Chen, to planting evidence, to stealing my keycard access. We heard. She holds up a small recording device. Building security called when they detected unusual activity. We've been listening from the parking lot for 10 minutes. Elena looks up from her position on the concrete floor, mascara streaking down cheeks that once inspired athletic magazine photo spreads. You have nothing that will stick in court. We have recorded confession, physical evidence, and witness testimony. Plus the financial motive investigation turned up your gambling debts and embezzlement from the rowing club. Ramirez signals for Elena to be loaded into the police cruiser. Miss Torres, you have the right to remain silent, though that ship seems to have sailed. As Elena disappears into legal consequences she orchestrated for others, I find myself standing in the boathouse where this nightmare began, surrounded by equipment that nearly destroyed 2 lives through one person's twisted jealousy. It's over, Camila says, moving into my arms like she belongs there. Is it? Elena's confessed. The evidence trail leads back to her. Your company's cleared, my name's cleared, we're both free to get back to normal. Normal. The word feels foreign after weeks of suspicion and fear. What is normal for 2 women who fell in love in a bowling alley and nearly lost everything to someone else's obsession? I don't think I remember normal anymore. Then we'll create new normal. 6 months later, new normal looks like standing in the same bowling alley where we first met. Watching Camila line up a shot that could win our team the corporate league championship. Her form is perfect, powerful shoulders coiled with controlled energy, before releasing the ball toward pins that fall like dominoes. Strike. The crowd erupts in celebration while I grab her face and kiss her hard enough to taste victory and possibility in the future we've earned through surviving the worst someone could throw at us. Marry me, I whisper against her lips. Here? Now? Why not? This is where it started. Her smile outshines every neon light in Mesa Lanes. Yes. The engagement ring I've carried for 3 weeks slides onto her finger like it was designed specifically for this moment, for this woman, for this life we're building between corporate mergers and Olympic training schedules. Detective Ramirez watches from the crowd, off-duty but apparently enjoying the show. Elena Torres serves her sentence in state prison, where rowing practice consists of laundry detail rather than Olympic dreams. Marcus Chen's company dissolved into acquisition pieces that my firm helped assign to ethical competitors. You realize we're about to become one of those couples everyone secretly hates. Camila observes as we acknowledge congratulations from teammates and friends. Rich and happy? Disgustingly content. I can live with that. We kiss again, surrounded by the sound of falling pins and cheering voices and the promise of mornings, spent watching her cut through river water like she's pursuing dreams that finally include room for love. The neon lights reflect off her new ring, casting rainbow patterns across walls that witnessed our beginning and now celebrate whatever comes next. My phone buzzes with a text from my assistant. The Patterson merger went through ahead of schedule, adding 17 million to quarterly projections. 6 months ago, that news would have been the highlight of my week. Tonight, it's background noise to the sound of Camila's laughter. What are you thinking about? She asks. Watercolors. Come again? I'm thinking about buying some watercolors. Terrible, messy, wonderful watercolors that have nothing to do with quarterly reports or market share. Now you're talking like someone who knows how to live. Outside, Mesa spreads beneath desert stars like a circuit board of connected possibilities. My penthouse waits with its perfect view and Egyptian cotton sheets, but it won't be empty anymore. Won't be a beautiful prison designed to keep the world at safe distance. Ready to go home? Camila asks. Home. Not my penthouse or her boathouse or anywhere defined by geography. Home is wherever she is, whatever space we create together between her dawn training sessions and my board, meetings and the life we're brave enough to build, despite knowing how quickly it can all disappear. Ready? We walk toward the parking lot hand in hand, matching rings catching light from street lamps and distant windows. Behind us, Mesa Lanes continues its eternal cycle of strikes and spares, winners and losers. Moments that change everything disguised as ordinary Tuesday night entertainment. Some people find love in coffee shops or dating apps, or carefully orchestrated dinner parties. We found ours between gutter balls and perfect strikes, in the space where competition becomes connection. And two careful women learn to risk everything for something neither expected to find. The future stretches ahead like calm water, ready for whatever currents may come.